Hey, what's up everybody, it's me, That Weep here, back with another What If Naruto Had Ultra Instinct. This time, part 12. If you guys have not already, please make sure to slap the like button, comment down below what you think of the video after you're done watching it, and subscribe to the channel for more videos from me. Anyhow, let's just get into this part for what you all came here for, What If Naruto Had Ultra Instinct. As Naruto and Sasuke had entered into the great tree with a paper door covering it, that from Conan, obviously, as they see Nagato strapped to his metal life support that's been keeping him alive all this time, his ribs streaking out through his skin looking papery and thin. The two would see Conan standing next to Nagato in a defensive position ready to defend him. Naruto and Sasuke would walk forward, as the two have already defeated all 6 of the Pains, with no hopes of them coming to save Nagato, with Conan being the last defense. Nagato would then begin to talk with Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke and Naruto would walk in together, as Naruto would begin to pull out the book that Jiraiya had left for him and Sasuke, that is. This would be the moment when Pain would begin having his talk about his ideals against Naruto's. Naruto would stand there silently while Sasuke is barely able to hold it in, as Pain would tell the two of them about his story, the story of him and his 2 friends, Yahiko and Conan. As you can see, we see 3 young kids, all 3 looking starved, as if they haven't had anything to eat in days. Rain keeps pouring down and down, as the rocky craters around them make it look like an even more desolate landscape. The 3 have barely enough food to survive, as they've been stealing and taking as much as they can from the abandoned villages. The last great shinobi war, the 3rd one, had ravaged the land of rain. And not just these orphans, but there are many other children out there who had either been killed already or had their parents taken from them by force throughout the war. The 3 had already taken hideout and shelter when Jiraiya Sensei had found them. Jiraiya would have trained them just like he had in the original, with him telling Nagato that he might be the reincarnation of the Sage of 6 Paths, just because he had the Rinnegan, which, as legend had it, said the dojutsu of the old Sage of 6 Paths himself. Nagato at this point wouldn't have realized that Madara had given him the Rinnegan, but, Anyhow, Jiraiya would still be talking with the 3 and helping train them so they can survive on their own. While Jiraiya would be doing this, the 3 would be learning over time, as now all 3 had become masterful shinobi. Jiraiya had left now, and the 3 were on their own, but this time they had skills and could utilize chakra, and through the years they would eventually come to create their organization, the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki is going to be a peace organization that'll help bring peace to the world and make sure no one else has to ever go through what we went through ever again, Yahiko would say passionately, as they've obtained many new members by this point. This, of course, would be before the Akatsuki became a mercenary organization run by Obito and Madara, but that's not scheduled to be around for at least a few more years. Anyhow, Hanzo, the leader of the Land of Rain's shinobi villages, had decided for himself that the Akatsuki were going to become a nuisance for him in the future, and he would decide to take out their leader. Yahiko would be killed, and Nagato and Conan would be the only ones left alive. The Akatsuki would have been decimated at this point, with no hopes for the future of them ever being returned to the former glory that they had. We can fast forward a few years now to where the Akatsuki has become a strong mercenary organization under the lead of Tobi, or Obito, who has now taken its reins. Nagato at that point had already lost the will to fight back any longer, and so he had already collected the corpses of multiple shinobi that had become his puppets. His body had already begun now losing its strength as he had become nothing like a doll attached to his metal chair. We see Conan watching on as the Akatsuki would continue to go down in its former glory to become the mercenary organization hunting down tailed beasts it's become today. As we hear Nagato explain the story of how Pain had come to be, Naruto would just say nothing as he looks forward, an empty look in his eyes. Something about the contract that wasn't mentioned last time is that Naruto's emotions would have been exchanged as a form of currency with the angel to feed on, in exchange for the power of Ultra Instinct against the Pains. So Naruto at this point feels nothing, nothing but apathy for Nagato and Konan. Sasuke, on the other hand, would be enraged. You know, I had that choice too once, he'd say. But Naruto had saved me. He would look over at Naruto, who was still staring straight at Nagato with an empty look in his eyes. The blue that is usually a bright spark is now an empty cyan, looking like the bottom of a deep ocean, a pool that no one can ever reach. Sasuke would look back at Nagato and Konan, as he would then begin talking about his past, using his own Tog no Jutsu against them. Sasuke would tell the two about his tragic past, and his brother Itachi, who had slaughtered and murdered every single one of the Uchiha, his fellow kinsmen, aside from Sasuke and himself. With Sasuke telling them about this, Sasuke would try and hold back tears as he remembers exactly what his brother had told him. Itachi at this point is still alive in the story, as Sasuke didn't go down a path of revenge, so the Taka wasn't ever formed. This means that Itachi is still alive at this moment. Anyhow, back to what Sasuke is saying. Sasuke would tell the two about what Naruto had done for him. Naruto didn't give up on me, he'd say as he looked up at them. And just because I had a dark path laid before me doesn't mean that I couldn't step onto the light one. You fell for your own petty revenge, just as I would have, he would say. And because of that, you want to take the whole world and put it under your rule just to make sure that no one has to go through pain? Pain is what forms people. If we didn't have pain, then some people would never exist to become who they are. If Naruto didn't experience what he had as a child, who knows if he'd be as strong of a shinobi now? Who knows if he could have stopped you and saved the world from your terror? He hasn't saved anything, Nagato would say. This cycle of hatred will continue forever. As Nagato would say this, Sasuke would tell him to shut up. As Sasuke would be looking at him now, his eyes having changed to Sharingan. Sasuke would then tell him that as long as there's people willing to fight against that hatred, people willing to stop in its tracks, then that cycle can keep going on and on for all he cares. But it will slow down. It's going to stop one day. And just because you want to take control and make it stop now, doesn't mean that it's going to. People will always kill other people. People will always be dying. That's the way of this shinobi world. Then why? Why don't you not let us take victory and use our plan to take over the world and fix it by using the tailed beasts as our weapons to force everyone to... That's not real freedom, Sasuke would say. That isn't the way people should live. Sasuke would stop talking, as he would then tell him, Naruto can't say this right now, but in our master's book, Jiraiya, he named the main character of his book a really cool shinobi, Naruto. Sasuke would look at Naruto as he puts a hand on his shoulder. Naruto's eyes would mildly look up as if though nothing but an ant had landed on it, with Naruto just looking at Sasuke with the same empty look. Sasuke would harden his eyes, as he would then say that Jiraiya believed in Naruto, and he believed that he would be the one to save the world, to become its world's savior, the child of prophecy. Sasuke would say this, as he knows full well himself about what Jiraiya had told him. Jiraiya had told Sasuke during their training while Naruto was sleeping that Naruto was going to be incredibly important to the world someday. Sasuke, who would still be jealous of Naruto at this point in time, would ask why it's fair and how come it's not fair that Naruto gets to be someone special. With Jiraiya laughing and telling Sasuke that everyone has their own little cog, their piece, a wheel in this world that keeps it moving. And Sasuke, he would say, I want you to protect Naruto because there'll be a time when he won't believe in himself and that he might need someone to rely on. And I think that person's going to be you, Sasuke. Me? Sasuke would say, as his eyes are shaking when he looks at Jiraiya. Jiraiya would smile as he nods and then pats his hand on Sasuke's head. Hey, I'm not a little kid, you know, Sasuke would say, as he looks away from Jiraiya. Back to the present, we see Sasuke and Naruto both standing before them. As Sasuke would say, believe in the two of them, that the two of them together will fight against the cycle of hatred, even if it slows it down just a little bit, just 1 inch less forward, to stop other people's suffering. But suffering is what forms people, Sasuke would say. If we didn't have any goals, conflicts, or anything in life, would that really be living? Sasuke would say, Nagato at this point would be convinced, just as Naruto had convinced him in the original timeline, as he would then look at Naruto and Sasuke, the two of them. He would decide to put his faith in the two, as he would then use the Rinne Rebirth technique. As he's using the Rinne Rebirth technique, Nagato would say something to Sasuke. Sasuke, I'm sure you're well aware of this by now, and I'm definitely aware after seeing Naruto, but Naruto has something different about him, something strange. We see flashbacks in Naruto's mind of his pains being beaten by Ultra Instinct Naruto so easily like they were nothing. That power, he might not be able to control it one day, but if you can... Nagato would weakly reach for his eye as his hair is already beginning to turn white. Conan. If Sasuke truly wants to protect this world along with him, that boy there, Nagato would look at Naruto at that point, then he'll need more power. Conan would be shocked as he's saying, "No, you wouldn't." He would nod as Nagato would tell Conan, "Once I pass away, I want you to give Sasuke one of my Rinnegan. The other I want to keep for myself, of course. I want to see at least one of my eyes through Sasuke's world. I want to see where the shinobi world goes. I want to see if all he says is talk or if he can truly fix this world, even a little bit." Sasuke would be shocked at this as he says, "You don't have to." Sasuke would then be silenced as Conan tells Sasuke that if Nagato makes this decision, then it's up to Sasuke if he takes it or not. Let Nagato give him some help, because Nagato was the one who truly had his dream on saving the world, so letting him help just a little bit would mean the world to him. Nagato would pass away as the Rinne Rebirth technique is fully utilized, and Nagato would die. Sasuke would be shocked as she would then carve out the Rinnegan underneath Nagato's hair. "I don't want to see that," she would say, as she would then close her eyes as she would then cover the hair back over the empty hole in his skull. "You take it, Sasuke," she would say, as Sasuke would be given the Rinnegan. "There's no way I could..." "You're going to take it, okay?" she would say, as she places it in his hand. Sasuke would take the Rinnegan as he looks down, seeing the light purple hue. At this point, Naruto's beginning to return to his senses. He looks over at Sasuke. What happened?" "Oh!" Naruto would grab his head as he feels a raging headache. "Damn it," he would say. "Did we win?" Conan would look down as she nods, saying that you won all right, as she would take Naruto and walk out of the tree. Sasuke would look back and tell Conan that he's going to keep his promise, with Naruto being now up to speed by Sasuke. Sasuke and Naruto would now be the heroes of the Leaf Village, with Naruto and Sasuke then heading out. Sasuke would ask Naruto to do him a favor, as he would hold out the Rinnegan. I'm going to need this, I think, and I want you to be the one to..." Sasuke would gulp as he then says that when he takes out his Sharingan, he wants Naruto to implant the Rinnegan in his eye. Naruto would be shocked as he asks Sasuke if he's serious. Sasuke would nod as he looks scared. "You don't look..." Sasuke would be immensely afraid, as he doesn't know what it's going to feel like or what's going to change if he takes this power. By force? Did he really earn it? Sasuke and Naruto would have this brief exchange as the two walk back. "For now, I'm going to keep it somewhere safe." He'd pull a scroll out and seal the Rinnegan inside the scroll before putting it back to his side. "Alright, let's go back," Sasuke would say. Sasuke's shoulder would now be over Naruto's arm, as the two are walking together with Sasuke hobbling, having used the majority of his chakra and energy just talking. "Damn," he would say. "I shouldn't have activated my Sharingan like that. That was pretty careless of me, huh?" Naruto would smile as he looks at Sasuke, saying it's not a big deal, with the two friends now walking back together. "Did you really mean all that stuff?" Naruto would say, with Naruto looking over at Sasuke. You heard that?" "Well, I didn't really have any reaction to it at the time, but it's super embarrassing to talk about people behind their back," Naruto would say, as he looks away from Sasuke. Sasuke would sigh. As the two are walking, we would see Kakashi run up on his two previous students. "Sasuke, Naruto," he would say. The two were exhausted as they give a weak smile to Kakashi, saying they did it. With Kakashi walking back with his two students walking behind them, seeing the two walking together was a great sight for him, to say the least. As they come walking out to see the crater, they would see Sasuke and Naruto standing above it. The villagers would begin to cheer for Naruto and Sasuke, the heroes of the Hidden Leaf. Naruto and Sasuke would be thrown in the air as the two are now both heroes, with all of Sasuke's past transgressions with him trying to become a rogue ninja and escaping pretty much forgiven, and Naruto, his power now finally being accepted. Naruto is finally accepted by the villagers. Naruto would be extremely happy as his goal to finally become accepted had been finally realized, with Naruto and Sasuke both extremely pleased as the rebuilding of the village would begin. Naruto and Sasuke would now go into one of the tents alone, as Naruto and Sasuke would both look at each other, with Sasuke nodding. Naruto would take out Sasuke's Sharingan, as people can hear yelling coming from the inside the tent. Naruto would quickly reseal Sasuke's Sharingan into the scroll, as he then takes out the Rinnegan. He would take the Rinnegan and implant it into Sasuke's eye, as he would then hold his hand over it and use some chakra. Sasuke would also use chakra as they begin to connect the chakra pathways. I can see, he would say, as Naruto would pull his hand back. Sasuke would have in his left eye, so the same place where he would have his original Rinnegan later in the series, he would now have Nagato's Rinnegan. Now, before we move on, and I know this is going to happen, some of you right now are probably thinking, "Oui, but this why did you give Sasuke a power-up but not Naruto? Naruto should have the Rinnegan." And to that I'm saying, Ultra Instinct is overpowered in this what if. Basically, it makes him untouchable, and Naruto and Sasuke are a huge power disparity at this point. So, giving Sasuke the Rinnegan isn't going to change much other than the fact that he needs the power boost so that he's equivalent to where he was in the original series with his Mangekyo by this point. Don't worry about it. Naruto with Ultra Instinct, I would say right now, is way stronger than Sasuke with Noa Tomoe Rinnegan. And I don't think that's going to change for at least a long time. Anyhow, moving on from that point, now that Sasuke has the Rinnegan, Sasuke would help by assisting using some of the Rinnegan's powers, like the Almighty Push, to help refill the crater in Konoha. Now, after Konoha was finally fixed, Sasuke would begin having a talk with Naruto. Because of Sasuke's help and Naruto's assistance, of course, in this time, along with Yamato and everyone, Konoha would be fixed and at least better on recovery much faster, so when those envoys come from the Land of Cloud, the village would have some resemblance to the older village, just because Sasuke's Rinnegan powers can be really useful when it comes to fixing and destroying stuff. Like, he could use the King of Hell to heal people and things like that as well. Anyhow, back to what I was talking about beforehand, Naruto and Sasuke would have this talk. Sasuke would look at Naruto and tell him that he doesn't want him to worry about him, but he might have to go somewhere for a few days. "Where are you going?" Naruto would ask, with a question in his tone. Sasuke would then tell Naruto that he wants to go and find Itachi, that it's time for him to finally put to rest what he had looked for so long. "This isn't you going down on your path of revenge again, right, Sasuke?" Naruto would say with a look in his eyes. "Because if it is, then I'll stop you, right now." Sasuke would look up at Naruto, no hatred shown in his eyes, as he tells him that he has to avenge his clan, and that it's not about revenge anymore. This goal will always haunt him if he can never attain the power that Itachi had. If he can never move past Itachi, he never will be able to get over this. Naruto would begin to understand as he thinks about how he had just reached his goal of finally being accepted by the villagers. "Fine, but will you be fine by yourself? Itachi's no pushover," Naruto would say, as he remembers what he had done to Itachi when he'd gone Ultra Instinct against him and Kisame all those years ago. Sasuke would nod as Naruto and Sasuke give each other a fist bump. Sasuke heading out as he pulls a cloak over himself, looking kind of similar to now how he looks after this Fourth Great Shinobi War, with his hair now moved to the side to block his Rinnegan, so people can't see why or how he has it, since that would definitely make him a target for people to try and go after him. Sasuke would wave to Naruto as he would see them leave, with a watchful eye from someone that you guys might not remember, that being Danzo. Danzo is still alive at this point in the series because Sasuke has, for one, not learned about it, and two, Danzo would still not be dead because Sasuke never went rogue, so he didn't go after him. So Danzo would now be aware of Sasuke possessing the Rinnegan. This would be when Danzo would send some of the Anbu after Sasuke when he's leaving, saying he can't allow him to leave with the power of the Rinnegan, and they must attain it. In fact, Danzo would be willing to go himself as he and some of his own shinobi troop from the Root Force would go after Sasuke. Sasuke would not realize it at this point because he doesn't have his Sharingan or Rinnegan pretty much activated, since the Rinnegan's activated at all times, uses a ton of chakra, so he tries to use it as minimally as possible. As Sasuke would then go off after Itachi, Naruto would focus on what his own goals are. Where do I go from here? What do I do now? Well, the first thing I know is, I'm gonna beat the crap out of that angel, he'd say as he looks inside of his seal, with us seeing the angel laughing, as if though she was munching down on something delicious, that being Naruto's feelings from earlier. Naruto would be gritting his teeth, saying that she's so smug, with him deciding as he crosses his arms that he's gonna take revenge on those two, as Kurama and the angel are scheming again. Naruto would then, for the next few days, have nothing to do until that is the envoy from the Land of Cloud would arrive, with this being the envoy sent to begin talking about what they're going to be doing about the Akatsuki, as Killer Bee would have been attacked the same way as they would have, however, this time by Team Taka without Sasuke, and instead a member of the Akatsuki. Most likely Kisame would go with instead, so it'd be Kisame as well as Suigetsu, Jugo, and Karin. with those four having attacked Killer Bee and still having pretty much the same result. This would be when Obito would be displeased with their results. This meaning he would still want to show up at the 5 Kage Summit since they're still going to be going after Killer Bee, with Kisame's responsibility being on the line as he's going to be sent to Killer Bee instead. At this point, Danzo is going after Sasuke, like I mentioned earlier, so Kakashi would have been the one to take over as temporary Hokage, while Tsunade was still out of it. So, Tsunade is still down for the count for now, just because Naruto and Sasuke got there at the same time Naruto would have in the original, so Tsunade would still have been affected like she would have. Anyhow, with Kakashi now instead of Danzo being sent to the 5 Kage Summit as a request, this would be how the Leaf Village would respond, with Kakashi being honored to be sent, of course. Anyhow, as the 3 Cloud Shinobi had entered the village, a similar effect would happen with the 2 Cloud Shinobi searching for information. They'd eventually come across Naruto, who is supposed to be this hero of the Hidden Leaf. "So where's your buddy, Sasuke?" they'd say, the Uchiha. Naruto would look up at them and ask what they want, with Naruto wondering why 2 Cloud Shinobi would be in the Leaf Village for seemingly no reason. Naruto would stand up as, at this point the girl would be pissed off, thinking that Naruto's some kind of smartass, as she throws a punch at him. Naruto would easily dodge out of the way of this, as he would then say not to try and damage the buildings, as her fist almost comes into contact with the newly made wooden house that he was leaning against. Naruto's hand would gently wrap around her wrist, as his other hand would go underneath her elbow. He would then suddenly push up with extreme force, as he flips her onto her back, throwing her onto the ground, saying that's rude to attack someone you just met. Naruto began to walk away as she would then try and throw another punch at him, Naruto easily dodging out of the way, seemingly dancing around her attacks, as the other guy would be mumbling about how worried he was about any of the Leaf Village girls going after him. Karuga, on the other hand, would be raging as she keeps punching and kicking, with Naruto easily dodging, not even having to block or anything. She'd throw a flying kick towards Naruto's head, who would suddenly turn around as his eyes would meet hers. She'd suddenly jump back, she uses her hands and pushes her back in the air, as she felt an instant death. What was that, she'd think, as Naruto's eyes would go back to normal, with him smiling, saying she's actually pretty good. Naruto would then say it's his turn to ask the questions and ask why they're in the leaf, with her, regrettably, beginning to answer, as she would then tell him that they're on there for an envoy from the Raikage sending for a summit with all 5 Kage. Oh, well, old Granny's knocked out right now, he'd be thinking. I guess they'll have to send someone else. Naruto would laugh, thinking, maybe they'll pick me since I'm going to be the next Hokage, before he then stops his fake laughing. Anyhow, they'll probably pick someone like a high-ranking Jonin like Kakashi-sensei or Guy. As the camera pans up, we now see Sasuke running through the woods. At this point, having realized that he's being tailed, he would decide that he probably needs to do something about it. But first, he needs to find Itachi. Where is he, he'd be thinking, as Itachi would have been sent somewhere by the Akatsuki. We see a short flashback from Sasuke and Naruto talking to Konan before she leaves, with Nagato's body and Yahiko's as well. She would then tell Sasuke one piece of information, as she would then tell him that his brother will be found in the Land of Iron. The Land of Iron, huh? He'd think, I wonder what could be going on there. As Danzo notices the change in direction Sasuke takes as he's now heading towards across borders to the Land of Iron. As Sasuke is heading unknowingly towards his destination, so is Itachi Uchiha, as his mission was sent with Tobi to disrupt the 5 Kage Summit to give Tobi time to get in on the 5 Kage to declare war. We see Itachi and Sasuke's fates growing closer, as the wielder of the Rinnegan, Sasuke Uchiha, is coming face to face in battle against the Mangekyo of Itachi, his older brother. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Naruto Had Ultra Instinct, then make sure to slap the like button, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe to the channel for more videos from me. And this part you might have noticed is more centered around Sasuke, but if you notice in the actual Naruto series, there is a section where Sasuke has a lot of main focus. If you guys don't like that, I'm sorry, but Sasuke is an important character in the story, and I feel wrong not giving him this arc in the What If. Don't worry, I got more stuff planned. Next time will be Naruto, as he'll be also heading over to the 5 Kage Summit. Since in this timeline, Kakashi's guards would actually be Yamato and Naruto, with Naruto having clearly proven himself against the Pains as being a reliable shinobi. So, Kakashi, who isn't Danzo, wouldn't be worried about taking Naruto with him, so that would be the plan for next time. Anyhow, hope you guys still liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.